It's a beautiful sunshiny day here in Central Florida, but just 2 days ago, it was 30 degrees. Now, freezing here in Florida is a big deal. I had some tomato plants that had just come up out in my garden, and I did an experiment that I had heard about, and I want to see if it worked. I think it did, but you're going to find out with me. I'm also going to take you along with me and show you some of the things that I'm going to do, just keeping my garden going forward and planning for the spring garden.
All I have needs, I have not provided.
I planted my tomato seeds about 8 or 9 days ago, and they just came up. So I don't want them having to struggle to find light. Now, instead of grow lights and heating pads here in Central Florida, pretty good bet we're going to have some sunshine that day. So I just bring mine out, make sure they're well watered but not soaking wet, and I just let them start growing. I do bring them in at night because it has been dipping down into the 40s, even the low 40s. So I don't want them that much fluctuation while they're in a seed tray. So you see here, my dead tomato plant here, they got frozen. So they didn't last. So I normally would keep these in a miniature greenhouse that I built, and I wouldn't take them in unless it did get to freezing. But instead of the miniature greenhouse this year, I've got my miniature greenhouse out in my garden doing an experiment that I've never tried before. So I want to take you out there to the garden with me, see if that experiment worked, and also I want to show you, well, did my volunteer tomato plants survive the freeze with the little trick that I did? Let's go see. Well, here's my first experiment that I did. And I actually had a flower pot on top of this tomato plant and a flower pot on top of that one. And then I covered it with this sheet, several thicknesses thick over the top of that and the arugula plant that's right here. At some point, the wind blew it off and I'm like, where did the other pot go? It's way over here. So I was really surprised to see that this plant right here has minimal damage. It did get some frost, but since it's still green, I know that it will continue to grow. And I have this terracotta pot over another tomato plant, and it's doing pretty good. It didn't like being under there, but it's still pretty green, and I know it's going to survive. I can see here where the leaves touched the side of the pot, and that's where it got frozen. If the wind hadn't come, it would have looked like this one. This one's out here all by its lonesome under a terracotta pot, no sheets or blankets over the top, but this is what I did. I surrounded it with leaves to give it insulation. I can see that a little damage right here, but other than that, it's doing pretty good. A little bit of damage here too, but that's okay. It's still green, it's going to recover, and it's going to continue to grow. So those are the volunteer tomato plants that have come up. I believe they're Everglades tomatoes. And then this thing right here is my big experiment right next to the bok choy that looks beautiful. They are non-heading bok choy, and they're delicious in soups. I have eaten them as a salad. I don't care for them as raw greens. But let's see what's going on underneath the blanket where my little miniature greenhouse is. So I've got a clear plastic shower curtain over the top, and I will be keeping the shower curtain on overnights. So let's see what's going on down in here. So I've got the netting on as well, so when I do uncover it during the day and when I water it, it's to keep any insects away. So my big experiment this year was to see if I could sprout tomatoes right in the garden soil. I know in the old days, I've seen the old farmers do it, and I've actually even bought seedlings from them. So they are sprouting. So the thing now is to baby them all the way until all danger of frost is done. And that's usually around the 1st of March, maybe even into the middle of March. Just now coming up. You see them all in through here? Here's one. So I've got 3 kinds. I've got tomatoes on the vine, which will be coming up here. So far, that's the only one I'm seeing. Oh, there's one that's just coming up right there. This is grass. Let's see. And this is a determinate plum variety. And on beyond that is Homestead, is a determinate variety. Let's see. There's several of those coming up right here. See if I can get my finger in there. There it is. When the next frost or freeze comes through, there's a couple of things that I need to do differently. One, because that front came through with a lot of wind, instead of just putting that plastic pot on top, I've either got to weigh it down or come up with another terracotta pot to put over the top. And I will surround these tomato plants with leaves. Now you can use hay or really good dried out grass, as long as you're sure it's really good and dry. So I'm covering this up now so that no insects will come and eat the seedlings. Now, since it's really warm today, I'm not going to put this over until tonight. And we're not expecting any freezes in the near 3 or 4 days. It's probably supposedly a week from now. So I'm not going to put this up over the top. But that means I'm going to have to keep an eye on how dry the soil is. So a good measure is your own finger. Go to your first knuckle, poke your finger down in there. If it's dry, water it. If it's still a little damp, hold off watering it. I'm going to keep these out here because I believe I'm going to need them again. I'm going to go ahead and pull my turnips today. I've got them in several age groups. So I'm going to cook them separately this time. I have a video where I show you how to cook the greens and the turnip roots together so that you time it so that the roots aren't going to be mushy. But this time I'm going to cook them separately. I'm going to cook the greens for a vegetable, and then I'm going to roast the roots along with some sweet potatoes. Just coat them with olive oil, sprinkle some sea salt on them, bake them at 350, 375 until they're done. It's just that easy. I have a whole series on how to grow carrots, and I show you exactly from seed to finish how to be successful growing carrots. The thing that got me this year was mole crickets, and that is why I have turnips growing right next to the carrots. The mole crickets didn't care about the turnips. They left them alone, but they came through and wiped out a whole row of carrots. So what I've done is I went back and I sowed some turnips next to where the carrots were coming up. And it worked. Not 100%, but it definitely was an improvement. And this is a papaya tree that is dying. It does not survive frost or freeze unless, so I've noticed that quite a few things will survive underneath a plant that's fairly thick. It offers it just enough protection from frost and freeze. I'm not sure how that works. If it's freezing, it's freezing, but apparently there's just a little bit of difference between this one and look, it's just right around the corner here. That one. Do you see my banana trees? But I have a stalk of bananas up there. I'm trying to find them. The stalk that's holding them is still green, so I'm hoping that they will survive long enough to actually fill out the bananas. I've never had bananas grow at this time of year, so I have no idea. I'm just taking a quick look at my pineapple plants. See, they're under some oak trees. Pineapples grow pretty well under oak trees. Not my garden, not regular vegetables, but pineapples. And this is a loganberry tree. So they're doing pretty good. I also grow some pineapple in another area, and I need to go uncover them. These are strawberries and pineapples, onions, and they are somewhat protected under the canopy of a very large oak tree. These are blankets that I've kept over the years, sheets. We had a large family, so I got quite a bit of collection as the years went by. It's anchored down with these boards to keep the wind from blowing it off. And we still had to come back and clothespin these pieces together because the wind was just so strong. But let's see what's going on underneath. The wind knocked this right off the top. This was a pup that was coming out the side. So I'm going to attempt to go plant it and maybe it will survive. I don't know what's going to happen with the parent plant, if it will grow another pup or not. If not, then I'll put another pineapple in its place. If you don't have good clothespins, then use some office clips. They work pretty good. In fact, they work really well, and they'll last a few years before they get completely rusted out. So as an overall picture, these plants did really, really well until you get about halfway down and we see some damage. That's definitely frost damage right there. And that's where it got broken. A little bit of frost damage. They'll survive. But right across the way, I'm going to spin you around. These did not get covered, and you can see that there is some damage on them. But not to the point that they're going to die, with the exception, this one was not very healthy to begin with. It started looking poorly before the frost hit, so I think what I'm going to do is just dig it up and put that other one that I showed you in its place. So the pineapple may do okay for a little bit with freezing, probably because it's underneath this oak tree. But I don't think the strawberry plants would have done very well. It definitely would have ruined whatever was blooming and whatever little berries are on the bushes. So you see, the onions did good, strawberries did good, the pineapple did good. I will still go to the trouble of covering these By the way, I may have forgotten to mention, this is how I'm supporting the blankets, because I knew the weight of the blankets would ruin the pineapple fronds or leaves, whatever they're called. Well, that's my mid-January chores. I hope it's inspired you to get out there and do a little bit of garden work and keep that garden going forward all year long.
Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me.